Hey, welcome to the channel. We hope that you enjoy today's stories and check out the chapters on the video to see all the stories for today. But before we get into this video, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to get notified when we release a new video. So let's get into the video.
This had to be a demonic encounter. A little background on me. I grew up in a small mining town in West Virginia. I and my family have always been fans of the paranormal and have been to multiple locations in the state and out for our own paranormal investigations. Some locations included the Trans-Allegheny Asylum, Moundsville Penitentiary, Bel Air House in OH, etc. Every location way typically the same: pictures of orbs, small slight sounds, quick EMF spikes, just your typical ghost hunt. However, out of all the locations we've been to, one place is the only location that has really struck fear in me, and it was only approximately 10 miles from home. This place was a graveyard where a couple of very old family members were buried at. It was on top of a mountain about 5 to 7 miles away from civilization, cell service, or paved roads. To get here, you would need an SXS or a four-wheeler, as the road turns into the dirt after the last house on this hollow road. The trail leading up the mountain is very rugged, with massive rocks and ruts, and is about 60 degrees incline roughly. The graveyard used to overlook an old mining town about 100 years ago, which has all been destroyed or removed since then, and nothing is there but dense forest. The only structure that stands for miles around that area is a memorial sign for the miners that have died there, around 80 people. Growing up, my family would get together and go there to investigate overnight, before I was even old enough to go. Once I was in high school aged, I went with my family on these investigations to that graveyard on top of a mountain, as I have already been going to all these different locations that I had previously mentioned. From the first time I went, I discovered why my family saw interest in this place. Out of the 4 to 5 times I've been there to investigate with my family, I heard blood-curdling screams, running through the brush, train car collisions, voices with full sentences, touched, grabbed, pushed, pictures of full-body apparitions, seen streaks of bright colorful light, growls, multiple shadow figures, constant temperature fluctuations, just absolute insanity. I've probably left out a few, but you get the picture. We would get very intelligent responses using the EMF meter by asking yes/no questions, light it up for yes, don't for no. When we weren't asking questions, the meter stayed pegged on the highest level it can go for 30-minute intervals sometimes. Keep in mind there are no overhanging transmission power lines, nor service of any sort. It was a paranormal investigator's dream location. But there was one spot in the graveyard that was just different. The graveyard is divided into plots all the way across the top of this mountain. Some graves were out of a plot in the middle of thick brush. Some were sunken in about 2 to 3 feet, some were just rocks without any writing. But most were dated from 1800 foot the early to mid-1900s. The third plot over from our family spot was always where we got the most activity, but it was different. Being over there, I would feel sick, some of us would be burned or scratched. The questions we would ask would get a response that we should be scared or to run. The spirits there would respond like they are afraid. We would ask if something evil is over here or demonic and would immediately get a maxed out EMF response of yes, etc. Even on one occasion, we carry firearms because it is in the middle of the woods. My brother had his in a holster on his hip and something tried to unholster his gun 3 different times. One of the times so violently he almost fell down. When things got violent, or we all got a weird feeling like something else, demonic, became present, we would leave. But overall, there was never an occasion where we were disappointed going home. Fast forward to the present day, and we haven't been back there for several years to investigate. However, during that period I was still fascinated with that third plot. I was an avid four-wheeler rider and would ride by myself sometimes and would often go there during the day alone. At that plot and around it, I would notice that there were no bugs, no animals, no light, just wind through the trees. I would go there alone a few times a year and just sit or walk around because the place just fascinated me. It got to the point where I would get exceedingly angry if someone in my family mentioned investigating there and we ended up not going. Little did I know what I was inviting. Fast forward to recently last year, activity began in my house. Doors opened, strange dreams, footsteps, heavy, banging, sounded almost like deep heavy bass, touched or grabbed while sleeping, even during the day, knocks, would come in fours for some reason, my room constantly hot like a sauna, curtains moving, lights flashing, etc. Once we all noticed this happening, we would sage the house weekly, salt the windows and door frames, and hang blessed crosses above the doors. Since then, there has been no recent activity, a couple of odd days where something small would happen but nothing in comparison. I also recently discovered from a Bishop Long TikTok that people often become obsessed by a location in the presence of the demonic. Learning that, I have not been back there nor plan to. What do you think?
Do you like listening to these stories? Do you want to hear more of them? Then click that like button, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. And check the description for links to more videos and interesting stories.
I used to live in an old funeral home. When I was 10, my parents decided to move us into an old funeral home. Now in this house for the 5 years I lived in it, I have had many experiences and unexplainable things happen. However, I'm only going to list some that really stuck with me. When we first moved into the house, the new owners kept only one item from back when it was a funeral home, and it was the organ. Now this organ was huge and very old. I don't know if it's been there the whole 60 years it was a funeral home, but I do know it had to be in there for a long time. I remember my father saying we were never to touch it. Being the destructive children we were, I could understand. So, we never did. However, it did. Let me explain. It started one night early in the daytime. The eerie sound of it being played. The sound of the organ was just hauntingly beautiful. Being a child, of course, I'm thinking my brothers are pulling a prank and probably going to get in trouble. However, after the first night, it continued. So, one night me and my sister had to catch our brothers in the act as they swore they weren't playing on it. So, when it played again, we went downstairs ready to bust them, so to speak. Only to find once the music stopped, no one was there. Now the funeral home was mostly renovated into an actual house. Mostly the downstairs cause that used to be where grieving families said their last goodbyes to their loved ones. They really tried to erase any history of it ever being one. Except the basement. Now the basement used to be the place where they prepared the dead bodies. Let me be clear, they didn't leave the equipment or table. This isn't haunting in Connecticut. However, they didn't try to really change up the basement at all. It was a dark tunnel-like basement with it starting at the entrance that used to be an office area to the actual house. It was a down slope like a downward hill from the front to the back. It was creepy, to say the least. So, I never really went in there. My parents used it as storage. One day my dad asked me to go down there to grab something, can't remember what, but it was important at the time. So, I went down with their flashlight in hand cause only had one light and went through the boxes. As I was looking, I felt this feeling. Almost as if I was being watched. I brushed it off, of course, and continued until the temperature dropped. All of a sudden on a hot July day it felt breezy. My hair stood up on the ends when I heard it. An unnatural sound. No words are to be made out. Just a gaggle-like sound. In my ear. I'll tell you, I spun so fast only to see nothing. I ran. For dear life up the ramp-like pavement to the user to be the store-like front. Refused to go back there. Now I can say the worst part of living there was nighttime cause of the nightmares. Mostly every night. I wouldn't remember all of them, just know I would wake up screaming and scared to go back to sleep. One time I did remember. Well, I remember the voice. Dead asleep to be woken up by a loud voice screaming, "Wake up." Looked around my room to no one there. My father would say it was just night terrors. To this day in my heart, I know it wasn't just a dream. Now mind you, these are just a few experiences. This house made me believe in the paranormal. It made me believe that there are some things in this world that just can't be explained. I don't know if the house is still there, but I do wonder and hope that the lost souls in that house found peace.
This house is tormenting my family. So guys, I am coming to you because, at this point, I don't know if we're crazy or if something weird is happening in our new house. Bit of the backstory: last July we purchased the home next door to the house I grew up in. The house is 28 years old with only one owner. He's a single guy who lived alone his whole life, never had visitors. It was odd. He decided to downsize with his old age, and that's how we ended up buying the house. Personally, I've never felt a sense of being scared while in the house. I'm a stay-at-home parent, so I'm here pretty much here 24/7 with our two kids, 4-year-old and 16-month-old. My husband, on the other hand, has been terrified. Anytime I've ever experienced anything out of the ordinary, my husband has been around. He's been experiencing weird things quite frequently though. There's have been times when a specific toy in our kids' playroom will go off when no one's in the room. For the toy to make noise, you have to push the buttons. The toy kept laughing while we were eating dinner, and my husband walked in there and said,
"Do it again."
Well, it did it again. The other night, my husband woke up because he heard a loud bang downstairs. I heard nothing. He came downstairs to look around and found nothing. While he was downstairs, he said he heard footsteps upstairs, so he came back up. Both of our kids were in bed asleep. He woke me up and asked if I had heard the bang and got up. I said no. The next night at the exact same time, 3:33 a.m., he said he heard our daughter laughing and babbling in her room. We have French doors separating our dining room from our kids' room, and we keep them closed at night. We've had family spend the night, and they said it sounds like the doors are opening and closing. My husband fell asleep downstairs before, and he as well said that it sounds like that. Me, I've never experienced it. Now here's where things kind of give me the creeps. My son, who's 4, keeps talking about someone named Tommy. We have no friends or family with that name. No one in his class with that name. He said,
"Tommy comes to play with us."
So basically, what do you guys think? Is my husband losing it, or could it be something messing with him? As I said, nothing happens to me while I'm alone, just when he's around. Edit, I forgot to add. The other night after tucking our kids in, we heard our kids' usual noises while they fall asleep, but also a very deep voice. This is odd because we both heard it and were like, what the hell? We went upstairs to investigate and nothing.
We hope you enjoyed listening to today's stories. If you want to see more stories, check out these videos or check the links in the description for more videos. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And ring that notification bell.